Happy Wednesday, UnWoke Nation, and I want to welcome you to episode 104 of the UnWoke Show, where free speech is welcome, all subjects are on the table, and your boys Rich and Tim bring you the latest and greatest for your entertainment, baby. I'm your host, Rich, along with my co-host here. How you doing, Timmy?
Oh, great, Rich, man. UnWoke Nation, man, we're glad to be back with you, talking with you, as always. Beforehand, we're going to do a little housekeeping like we always like to do here on the UnWoke Show, guys. If you're just new to the podcast or you're trying to find out where you can find us, guys, we are on all the major podcasting platforms. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Listen Notes, Podchaser, Boomplay. Guys, wherever you're getting your podcast, tune in, check us out. You can also reach us directly at feedback@unwoketheshow.com. Again, that is feedback@unwoketheshow.com tonight. And Rich, we're talking about Gen Z, man.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, here we go. So we're all, the woke culture is nothing new to us these days.
No.
Okay.
They're everywhere.
Yes. Libtards are on the left. Mm-hmm. Then you've got the right. And in the mix, you know, depending on where you fall in or if you consider yourself to be woke.
Okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I know. Rich is shaking his head right now. If you could see him, he's gonna love this one. So the term woke refers to being aware of social injustices and systemic inequalities that exist in our society. Mm-hmm. Members of this generation are often passionate advocates for issues such as racial justice, LGBTQ plus rights, climate change, and gender equality. They reject traditional notions of power and privilege and instead value diversity, inclusivity, and social responsibility. One of the defining features of this generation is their use of social media as a platform for activism. Mm-hmm. Just go ahead and pull up Twitter. Start scrolling.
Yeah.
Or X. Hold on. We'll call it x.com, right? I want to make sure I'm using the appropriate term. But yeah, just start scrolling. Mm-hmm. You don't have to search for anything.
Doesn't take long.
It doesn't take long to find it at all. Mm-hmm. They are adept at using these platforms to raise awareness about important issues, mobilize others to take action. So what's interesting about all of that is there seems to be a different movement happening within Gen Z.
Tell me about it, Tim.
They seem to be moving in a little bit of a different direction from their original woke thoughts. Right? You know, for years, Gen Z has been either derided or praised for supposedly being woke. Its members have been called snowflakes, mocked for performative slacktivism and embracing trigger warnings, and described favorably and unfavorably as climate warriors and gun control activists. Mm-hmm. Okay. Some other comments have even proclaimed the nation's last hope.
Hell out of here. The nation's last. See, now you had to pull it on out of you.
Yep.
The nation's last hope? Are you serious? Okay, we just got done with all this woke crap and all. We're doing all this different crime. Let's just go for crime, for example, right?
Yep.
So you got all these wokies out here, you don't call it like it is.
Yes.
You got all these wokies out here, and it's all like, well, you know, we're trying to make sure that we have, you know, racial equality and stuff like that. Okay, where was your racial equality when you had people actually attacking New York police officers, and only for them to go, the two people were actually involved, were in jail for, I don't know, what, 3 hours maybe? Only for them to be surrounded by the press, for them to be sent up there, who, by the way, happen to be illegal immigrants on top of that.
Right.
Having coming out, and when they're giving you the double bird. All right, so is that some equality? It's like, you know, what's going on with that? Didn't we just get done having a situation about a kid who was a football player, and also he ended up getting stabbed by a kid? And also, it just happened, like I said.
They're in Texas, yeah.
Yeah, they're in Texas, and also, and sit there and have his twin brother basically watching his stabbed brother die, only for the person who happens to be black have some type of GoFundMe worth for $70,000, whatever like that, and then went out there. What did they do? They ended up buying a house in like some Big time.
So they were in a gated community, although I think they've talked about moving. They did buy an Escalade.
Right.
Right. So
those are cheap, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. So
sarcasm.
Earlier this year we had this election. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump won. Right.
You're being nice.
Yeah, I would say he bitch slapped the left.
Yeah, he dropped them off like a redheaded stepchild.
Yep. And so apparently that was enough for Gen Z, which again they encompass the age of 18 to 27, right? It happens to show that, however, Imprecise indicated that young voters had shifted right since 2020, right? Mm-hmm. Most of all, young white men who made up Trump's most supportive cohorts, right? Mm-hmm. Democrats lost ground.
Yeah. And still, by the way.
Yes, and especially with young women. Mm-hmm. So what is leading that, would you say?
Why do you think I think it's what's leading is, or maybe are you saying that what kind of had something to do with the election and therefore it's like this is kind of the aftermath of it all? Okay, well, number one, Tim, I think let's just talk about just society in general. So people have seen over the course of the last 3.5 to 4 years, so they've seen an increase in the amount of crime that's actually gone up. Okay. Mm-hmm. And which unfortunately happens to intertwine with dealing with a lot of the situations when it comes with immigration. Now, I'm not saying whether every person who's an immigrant over here is coming over here to cause crime or anything like that. The UnWoke show is not standing for that. But what we are saying is that we're seeing too much of people who are being law-abiding citizens, like your Laken Rileys and all different, where are actually being assaulted, going about their day, and they're seeing local, state, and federal governments are not doing anything, at least at the time, are not doing anything about it. And also, we had within the last year, most of the people dealing with Gen Z, most of the people who have been victims of these certain crimes happen to be college-age students.
Right.
Okay? And so when a society is starting to see that being an issue, they start asking questions. So we looked at how the Democratic Party was going out there, and they're not doing anything with the crime that's going on. And also, especially in a lot of these, we had done, I think a couple weeks ago, where we did a show when it comes to a lot of the sanctuary cities and stuff like that, and what's so going on. And we're seeing the amount of increase of those crimes being done in these particular cities. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of the Gen Zs are now starting to go like, wait a minute, we're seeing that there's a problem here. We're seeing that some of these things that are, quote, trending that we want to protest about, what the hell's going on?
Why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this? Well, what is this?
The Harvard.
Yeah, the Harvard situation, and also, which I think we just did a show about.
We did talk about that,
We
right?
did a show on that.
The encampments. Columbia, it happened, the encampments.
Stopping students from going to class,
And how many of those kids, I don't know, I just signed my name.
Exactly.
I don't know what I'm signing up for.
They're sitting up there chanting about stuff that they have no flipping clue what they're chanting about.
Right. So the Gen Z demographic, if you were born between 1995 and 2012, you fell into the Gen Z category. Mm-hmm. Okay. Initially, Gen Z was characterized by individuals who actively seek to challenge social norms. Okay. Promote equality, fight against various forms of discrimination. Keep informed, stand up for marginalized communities, and affect positive change.
Okay. Sounds nice.
Yep.
Very nice.
Sounds. Many were committed to amplifying marginalized voices and advocating for policy changes that promote equity and inclusivity, i.e. DEI.
Oh, shit.
Social warriors, empathy, and active efforts to address societal issues. Now it's gone the exact opposite, where Gen Z feels that the term woke has been overused, diluted, or even misused to the point where it has lost its original meaning.
And I agree. And I said this about when it using the term racism. I was saying this years ago that
You're racist? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like anytime you're not going for the left narrative, oh, you must be racist. It's like it doesn't mean anything anymore. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that I think it's a insult to people who are who are part of our elders. And I'll shout out to all the UnWoke Nation or who are the elderly. It's like that, who have actually know what it's like to live through Jim Crow. To know what it's like or not to be told where you can't read or you're not allowed to write, you can't have better schools and stuff like that. And so now we have this society currently that's using racism for everything. Tim, we're out there hearing stuff about highways are racist. To see white people smiling in the rain is racist.
White people drinking black coffee is racist.
It's racist. It's like, so Colombians got to be the most racist people on the planet.
Walmart is racist.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that famous video where because that lady was acting like a flipping idiot and decided she wanted to say Walmart is racist. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You're right. It takes a lot out of truly what they're trying to stand for. It's like when you look at Black Lives Matter, all right? And I think with Black Lives Matter, we're saying that, yes, we dealing with certain police brutality. I get it.
Yeah,
but to sit there and to say that every white cop out there is trying to kill, this is why I've mentioned this before, why it's always pissed me off, why LeBron James want to sit there and say, cops out there are just out there, just hunting black people. Seriously?
No.
You are a highly influential person,
right?
Especially in the black community, that's going out there saying that, if you see a cop where he's out there trying to hunt you, what about the situation that happened in Columbus, Ohio, when they had like five black cops and they ended up pulling over some black suspect?
Oh, yeah.
And like that. So are we including them
what
as
was
well?
The issue in Memphis it was a black cop, Asian cop, there were other cops that were all had been arrested and had been fired over killing of a black man, right?
Right, so that's just what I don't understand. It's like, woke doesn't mean anything. Or let's go to DEI. So then we go to the DEI situation.
Right.
Okay, it's like, it seemed what we were doing with the DEI was, okay, we need somebody in there, but they must be three things: minority, particularly black, female, and gay.
Yeah.
Oh, they fit those three? Let's throw them in there. Wait a minute. Can they do the job based on their merit? We really don't know, but that's okay. They fit the first three.
Well, throw in your environmental warriors who fall into the woke category as well, right? Going into art museums, throwing paint, blocking highways, saying stop
destroying
oil.
multi-million-dollar projects for what?
Yeah.
No one's going to remember you, buddy.
No, absolutely not. But what has started to change is, and I'm hoping that the light bulb is finally going off, is the overuse of woke, for example.
Yes.
The acknowledgement of more traditional norms.
Yes.
Okay. That Gen Z is starting to see. And I think a lot of that has to do with the red wave that hit earlier this year.
Yeah.
And I think it even goes so far as, remember that video, was it in North Carolina, of the students who protected the American flag?
Yeah.
White men that were protecting the American flag versus want to be pulled down and stuff. So I think I would like to say that's part of like a certain level of patriotism being tapped into.
Yeah.
But now, as we have talked previously, more women are now, whether you're boss babe or graduating college and stuff like that, and now they're saying, hey, wait a minute, why am I not being married up?
Right.
And now some are even saying, I'm fine with staying at home and being a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
Right? I want that traditional value. And what can't they find? They can't find men to fulfill that.
Right. And see, and that kind of goes into two different things. First and foremost, we've had a woke culture that basically says about how awful the United States is supposed to be. But yet we have 5,000 to 6,000 people willing to risk their lives coming through Central and South America to come to, quote, the most racist country of all time. Make that dog swim.
Well, it doesn't, but it also is, I think it speaks to a lot of, one, we've seen the reversal of DEI.
Yes.
Right. That was much needed. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right.
Now, again, if you go on Twitter or X and start scrolling, there are those that are still clinging to that bullshit.
Right.
And losing their minds. Mm-hmm. Right.
The woke will rise again. No, it's not gonna fly. You know. And then when you're mentioning about when it comes to like with women, you see, when we went into this previous presidential election, those people who were for the woke and the DI and on the left and stuff like that, they thought because there was a female candidate, that they would get they would get a lot of white suburban females that were going to vote because she was a woman. You had black females that sat there and say, well, I really don't care. Well, she's a black female. I'm just willing to vote for her. Not knowing anything that was going to be, that this person was willing to show what things she stood for as a candidate. And then when directly asked about by a reporter from 60 Minutes, which didn't come out until a week after the election, it was asked, why do you think you should become president? Well, I just love the American people. Okay. Care to elaborate, Mrs. Harris? When asked again, no, I just love the American people.
Right.
Tim, you and I love the American people. We ain't running for fucking president.
No. Hell no.
Exactly. It's like, so what it was is that they were expecting, the numbers started coming out. And it started coming out and said like, okay, we're going to have women be able to vote for this candidate because she's a woman. Now, we're not saying here on the UnWoke show where there will never be a female president. It will come around. But
yeah, for sure.
As one lady, and I'll never forget this lady, she was on live television. And they were asking her, Miss, do you, and she's probably in her 70s or 80s, but she was asking her, she says, Miss, do you ever feel that there will be a female president? And she says, yeah, but we want to make sure, and this is the key, it was a mic drop right here. She says, yes, I think that there will be a female president, but we want one that's competent.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
And when she said that, I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this woman's in her mid to late 70s. And so, you know, she's seen a lot of stuff. So it's kind of like, yes, there will be. And I agree, like I said, there will be a female president. But you have to have one that's going to sit there and say, I want to be president because of this bullet point, that bullet point, this bullet point. They're just running off of, oh, she's a woman and we don't like the other guy, so we're just going to vote for him. I had to ask someone who was going to vote that way no matter what. And I asked that person, can you please tell me 3 things why you feel that Kamala Harris should be president? And they couldn't give me an answer. Not one, Tim. Couldn't give me a single answer. Tell me what you think she would do with the economy. Now, we all heard what's going on The View.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the killer right there.
Yeah,
even James Carville admitted that was killer.
He was like, well, that's done.
Yeah. And this relative couldn't even explain that much. So, not to get off subject, or when we go back to Gen Z, I think Gen Z sees how crazy things have been going, and now they're kind of going like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Why am I graduating from college, but they're going to pick this student or this person for this job because A, they might be a minority, or B, they're trying to, you know, because of this whole DEI, when I know I was more qualified. That's not fair.
No, that's definitely not fair. I also think it, coming from the top, and when I say the top, being the president, calling out nonsense.
Yes.
Right? I'll be the first to admit, I'm not a huge Trump guy.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll go on record as saying, listen, I voted Republican. I'm not like I said, I'm not a big Trump guy. But the certain level of patriotic influence that I think it was missing. You could really say the last 8 years, even with Obama, right? And I think you can look at that in a sense, looking at the declining number of enrollment in the military.
Yeah.
Okay.
They said, I think at one point they said they were 15 to 20,000 people less than what is considered to be a good number for recruitment.
Right.
They weren't having that. And so, I mean, that's amazing to see so many people were. And I think what it is that there seemed to be this theme about this attitude of just hating your country. And that's what just was amazing. I mean, you and I seen some of these videos on Twitter where we're seeing, I think it was in 2000, some guy was in Philadelphia and he had his book bag and he had a little American flag sticking out of his book bag. And there's this lady behind him and she's crying her head off and he's explaining in the video, it's like, this woman is crying because she feels by me having an American flag sticking out of my book bag, that it disturbs her safe space.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Ma'am, you are in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the first capital of the United States. Oh, by the way, they also don't believe in history.
Yeah, no, I can't get behind that.
And you're trying to tell me that you believe your life is threatened because some guy's got an American flag in his book bag, and that's threatening you? You are in the middle of the United States.
You don't belong here. Get out.
Get out. just get. It's like it makes absolutely no damn sense. Why do we have to people? I had somebody recently tell me, we got more Americans going to England like that. Is that supposed to make me not sleep at night?
Well, we saw a recent statistic about the number of Americans that are enrolling in Canadian universities.
Sure.
Right. Do I think Gen Z, are there bright spots? Yes. Mm-hmm. But we could say that about Gen X, the baby boomers, right? What our parents were saying about our generation. We're like, oh God, we're screwed with these guys. But imagine what the previous generation was saying about their kids' generation, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but it gives me hope that for certain Gen Zers, right? And when I say certain, collectively there is, groups within the Gen Z community that the light switch has gone off on.
Yeah.
And that gives hope because now, they're seeing a level of it's okay to be patriotic. I'm not getting on the DEI bandwagon. And to me, that's a lot of what I also think is how much of Gen Z was just social bandwagoning, if you will.
Yeah.
I have no doubt they're glued to their phones. We can all say that that's just a fair assessment. And they're glued to social media and their life is influenced in that capacity. But to see a certain amount of potential in Gen Z that are moving towards more what's deemed traditional values, that gives me a small glimmer of hope that we're not completely shit out of luck.
See, and the thing is that they think, people who want to be against that, they say, they automatically say, well, you're talking traditional values and like that. No, traditional values has nothing to do with just being white. It's about, a family should be able to know that they're safe being on their own lawn in front of their house without their neighbor, shooting their children execution style. Real story.
Right. Oh yeah.
It's about a business knowing that they can run their business without it being robbed and therefore having to spend an extra $15,000 worth of putting up plexiglass on their front counter just so they won't get robbed or having their employees being robbed. True story.
Or kids going to school.
Yes.
And not being shot at in class.
Exactly. Or knowing that the parents can be comfortable knowing that their child can go to their grade school library and not have to pick up a book where it's talking about how they can do blowjobs.
Right.
I mean, that's called traditional values. And it has nothing to do What color?
No, not at all.
At all. About women, about a woman knowing that she can just, feel it's okay to, as they want to call like the trad wives or whatever the case may be.
Right.
They can actually just go ahead and do that. You were mentioning about even earlier saying like, well, you got all these ladies that are going out here saying like, well, we can't find, we got these 5 degrees and everything, and, we can't find, husband. Well, first off, we see what's going on because of being the whole bad bitch thing, but most men don't care about how many degrees you have. They just want to know, it's like, hey, is she just going to be a girl? It's like, so guys don't care about a woman that wants to be the whole masculine female.
Right. But it's also, part of that is not on women as much as men. And
oh, yeah, because there's men being simps. Yeah, I'm not going to leave that out.
No, Gen Z men.
Yep.
They definitely owe it to discover their internal testosterone and what it means to actually be a man. But again, I would go back to, I would put that on the parents.
Yes.
In that regard.
Right. I mean, like I said, like you said, the guys out here, the reason, going like I said again, it's like guys out here, the only reason why we have women out there who are on doing the OnlyFans and making $20, $30, $50, $70,000 a month like that is because of you bastards. If you don't pay them the 14 or 50, whatever it is, per month, you're doing that and all because you're simping. And then you wonder why the girls don't pay attention to you.
Well, essentially digital strippers.
Exactly. That's basically what it is. Okay? So I don't blame this all on women. It's because we have social media. It's because of the values that we have been put out here and what we're showing with guys. That's the reason why we have such an issue. It's the reason why we're having less birth rates going on, where it's not as bad as it is in Japan, but they are starting to see a decreasing amount of Americans having children and different things like that because guys don't want to get married, girls don't want to get married, they're making their own, so they're doing all that different stuff. This is what's going on. So I think it's like we have Gen Zs now getting to the point where it's like, yeah, you know what? We see the reason why our parents didn't have as much issues or something like that, and we see this new wave, and it's not making sense.
And it's just, the fact that you can surf TikTok, Instagram, X, whatever your social media platforms you're using, and there's going to be posts out there about why men can't find wives.
Yep.
In the traditional sense. Take nothing away from married couples who both work.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
But if you're looking for the wife to stay at home with the kids, the man goes out and work thing, you're not finding that. And then you've got women who are saying, hey, I'm successful. I do my own thing. Why can't I find a man to wife me up? To go on social media and whether those videos are clickbait or not, that thought is out there. That perception is there. There, in certain circles, there are women who are actually feeling like, why can't this happen? And which is crazy from the Gen X, if we go back past millennials to Gen X, one of the days, if you were a Gen X kid, is, oh yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting married. I want to get married, want to have kids. Now it's, I'd rather just spend time with my AI girlfriend.
Yeah. And, a lot of people they're saying that, or I think we saw something on the news where they were talking about there are companies out there that are creating softwares that some of these ladies, AI, not really ladies, just basically, like you said, software, and they're making them look so real, and they're making them to the point where they are literally learning about you to become, quote, this ideal girlfriend. In fact, I just heard, was it a social influencer and Gary Vaynerchuk even said recently, said something. He said, there's going to come a time in everything where you're going to see your 14-year-old daughters where it's going to be dating or in a relationship with a guy that basically they only see on their computer. I'm paraphrasing here. But basically that's what it is. I mean, he says this is basically coming.
Oh, I would not be surprised. I mean, there had been Hollywood has even produced movies about finding the ideal wife who ultimately ends up being an android. There's a really old movie, and it's a reference, and I have no idea why this is sticking out with me. There was a movie called Cherry 2000. And it's kind of in a post-apocalypse. You either have the haves and have-nots, type of thing, right? And there's this one guy who has this disc because his ideal android female partner or whatever ended up like exploding or melting down or something like that, and essentially has a backup of her personality. And he goes on this hunt for, and the android itself is a Cherry 2. It's a Cherry 2000. He ends up working with this chick to try to get this guy to where he could get another Cherry 2000. I'll never forget the scene where there's a bunch of them just hanging in this one room, and he unzips a bag like like it's a brand new thing, puts the disc in the side of her neck, and like, oh, and the guy ends up realizing that the girl that was trying to help him, and they go through this thing, like he ends up wanting the actual human versus the android. But it's crazy to think that people could find or make that kind of mental connection with something that's only on a screen.
Yeah, it's gosh.
So
it really is, like, Tim, it's heartbreaking, men or women, just the fact that people can be so out of it that they can't have communication with another heart-beating human, that they feel like the only gratification they can get is either one through a computer or software, like you're saying,
right,
or they feel like their worth is, doing heinous stuff, like we saw, obviously you say the one girl and all, but we see the other one about the girl who was in Turkey OnlyFans where they got arrested for wanting to try to sleep with 100 guys.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and you have people out there to think that that's the validation that they need. Or what's that one guy, what's his name, that's over there in, I think, the Philippines, and he's going around, just egging people on and causing trouble and stuff like that. It's like the only way. Some Russian guy. It's like, they end up kicking him out of the country.
Well, yeah.
So and just doing this, like what is wrong with our society that you feel like you have to be either vile or obnoxious or whatever the case may be, or feel like, the only way I can really talk to anybody is through a computer. It's the whole I want to be my 5 minutes of famous on YouTube or going viral type of thing. Yeah, that worked well, didn't it, Haktua? Yeah, exactly. But UnWoke Nation, we'd love to get your thoughts on Gen Z. Again, I do think there is a glimmer of hope. I agree, man. But we'd love to get your feedback, guys. You can reach us at feedback@unwoketheshow.com. Again, that is feedback@unwoketheshow.com. Guys, we're on all the major podcasting platforms. Tune in. If you're feeling extra generous, give us a like, give us a subscribe, thumbs up. And as always, stay unwoke. See ya.